Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today we're going to be interviewing digital advertising expert, entrepreneur, and consultant Meredith Kallaher. Meredith works with businesses of all kinds to develop a strategy and a way of connecting the dots across social media channels, paid ads, and branding. Meredith, welcome to the podcast. And also just let's kick off by tell me a little bit about your background and what you currently do with your business.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for having me. So my name's Meredith Kallaher, like you said, and I'm out of Miami, Florida. And I now run my own company called Meredith Kallaher Marketing, LLC. I've been doing that for about 15 months, but my background is I studied in accounting and was a CPA and worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for about 6 years, which I really did not enjoy the work, but I appreciated being there and getting to travel a lot. I got to work in Zurich, Switzerland for 2 years with PwC. So I appreciated getting to Europe for the first time in my life. That was fun. But then since then, I have been an entrepreneur and done a few different things. I owned a couple of different franchises. And the last one I owned was called the Scout Guide. And the Scout Guide is in 70 cities now, maybe. It is a beautiful print publication that advertises locally owned businesses, sort of a collection of locally owned businesses. And they say, like, we help people live like locals wherever they are. And so I had the Scout Guide Miami franchise and it was super fun. I've been in Miami 10 years and I opened this franchise about 7 years ago. It was a really cool way to get to know the city intimately because I had about 40 businesses in each annual issue. And it was fun when I started that book. We had a requirement in our franchise agreement that we had to have a Facebook business page. It didn't say anything about Instagram, but sort of collectively, as we called ourselves editors, the franchise owners, we figured out that our clients would enjoy being featured on local Instagram channels. So we kind of learned together too, because this would have been, I think 2014. I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but we all, I had a page, the Scout Guide Miami, and every city had their own. The headquarters have one that's really pretty if people want to see it. But anyway, I really learned from the ground up what it was like to do influencer marketing. And that led me to develop a love for Instagram. And then I so much so that I launched a course with a friend, another local business expert, if you will, here in Miami. And we called it Instagram Strategy for Busy Doctors. And in launching that course, I learned so much. First of all, like how to build funnels. We wrote the whole course ourselves. We use a Kajabi platform. If any of your listeners use that, I love Kajabi, by the way. And I saw with the digital ads, we told this ad strategist, we want 500 doctors or doctor office managers onto our webinars that we're going to sell this course. And that ad strategist got 500 people. And to me, I thought, it was like witchcraft over there. But no, I wanted to learn. I saw that it was all about numbers and creative. And since I had this accounting background, it was super appealing to me. And fast forward through the pandemic, because we were advertising to doctors, we got all these cool opportunities to help people during the pandemic. We helped. So our course got put on the side burner because we did we helped this gentleman develop these antibody tests. And then we helped launch a testing clinic. And then we went my partner and I went our separate ways. Everything was launched. And I said, those ad strategists I really like what they do. So I went and took several courses and just fell in love. And so for the last 15 months, I've been helping small businesses run their digital ads. And it's been so much fun. But just like you and I, when we were talking before, when clients come to me and, they need help, often I would see that maybe that they didn't have a website or their website wasn't optimized, for conversions, really, to optimize to find people that would be interested in them and to make sales. So I'd start talking to them about brand story. I really love building a story brand. Why is his name Donald Miller? Sorry,
Yeah.
And I had read that several times. It's like my favorite marketing book. And so I didn't mean to, but I was selling ads strategy, but I ended up writing several businesses brand story. And then it was very easy to develop their website copy using the story we created. And yeah, so yes. And I always try to incorporate story in my ad strategy too, because I saw, especially back in my Scout Guide days, that really is what engaged people on Instagram when we could tell the story of businesses. And that we just always try to not just slap a post on social media, but make it a story every day, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So
Yeah.
there's my
And
story.
you're gonna, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but one of the things I always tell my customers is that you can run ads, you can create collateral, marketing flyers. You can do all the pieces that everybody else is doing. But if you don't have substance and if you don't have a calibrated brand, you're always gonna see a less than result. If you can walk into any one of those scenarios, whether it's running ads, building websites, whatever it is you do from a business and marketing standpoint, if you come to the table with an established, well-oiled, well constructed brand, you will have the leg on your competition every time.
For
Would you agree
sure.
with that? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because and it makes for it just even if you're doing everything yourself, even writing your brand story and developing your brand collateral, like the colors and logo and font. If then it's so clear in your head when you're trying to create marketing, that I'm doing it for the top of my, funnel or up here to attract awareness about my company, or this part of my marketing is for the end of my story when I'm trying to close the sale. It makes your life so much easier if you have the story developed. And it also, people see it. They see, even if they're only seeing snapshots here and there, they can see the story come together because I'm not a psychologist. I never studied that, but psychologists say that our human brains were built we love to hear stories. Like that's sort of how we understand. I'm sitting here with my fingers making this story arc to Mike, but our brains go in the, the hero's
Yeah,
journey.
the dots connect whether the client realizes those dots are connecting, they're subliminally being connected. And over time, whether it's the look and feel, the visual, the message, the story, the ad, whatever it is, these things are subliminally connecting over time. And I don't know where in the process it's probably different for every client or every customer, but sooner or later, all these dots connect and they start to understand, they start to remember, they start to kind of resonate with, oh my God, that's so and so, or I knew that because of this logo, or they just start to understand and identify with what it is you're trying to do. It's a big animal, which we've talked about a little bit, but that's kind of how it works. So to take that idea, especially in paid ads and social media,
Hmm.
a lot of factors. There's a lot of different things going. There's a lot of it's about frequency, it's about message, it's about numbers, it's about, staying in front of and staying in step with the evolutions that happen on the platform side. Talk to me a little bit about how do you navigate that? I kind of know there's not, I'm going to throw up some air quotes, but what's the secret sauce when people are trying to create that plan or that strategy?
The social media strategy as a whole or the paid strategy?
Either
Either
one,
would, yeah,
because what I would say is most people think they're one and the same. They're not,
right.
but most people think they're one thing. So how do
Yeah.
you, from a kind of a coaching consultant perspective, how do you break that down and help people kind of develop what that secret sauce is for them?
Well, so I guess, how do you break it down? I really think it's important to think about what your objective is. So if you can say, because there's all different pieces of our marketing, right? Like there is awareness, and then there is once we make people aware of us, then we want to engage them. And then we want to get them to subscribe to us possibly before they become an actual customer. And then once they become a customer, we want to get them excited and elevate them to become like raving fans, right? And so, of course, like if you said, I want to use social media and paid ads to do all of that, you just have to put it in line with your budget, right? So like, where can we spend the most money? And I mean, if you're brand new, then it makes sense to start at the beginning. Like, we need to make people aware of you, possibly, or maybe you just want to make a few sales first. If we could, that's a thought. But I usually
Yep.
recommend starting organically with that, meaning, so for paid advertising, it is getting more and more expensive. Like I think Facebook and Instagram is a great place to start, because even though it is getting more expensive, it's still cheaper than Google ads, YouTube ads. I've been playing with Pinterest a little bit lately. Pinterest ads are newer. They're not quite as expensive, but the tool is harder to use than Facebook and Instagram. It involves coding, and so I don't recommend starting there either. So anyway, I would start with Facebook and Instagram, but they did get more expensive. They came out in their third quarter. In part of their earnings release, they said that one of the reasons their earning, I think it went down in fourth quarter, but in third quarter, they said that they the they were charging 47% more for advertising in 2021 than in 2020. And so it's just flat out more expensive. And then coupled with the fact that in 2020, lots of big companies pulled out. So anybody that stayed in Facebook and Instagram advertising got amazing deals. So if you are new to it, you try to compare yourself to what people were doing in 2020, that they were getting crazy prices because a lot of people pulled out. Then Facebook increased their prices. And then we had this Apple update this year in 2021 that made it a little harder to advertise. But anyway, so because of all of that, I think for small businesses, it could be a good idea to use Facebook and Instagram ads for branding purposes, not necessarily to drive purchases, unless you're an e-commerce business that has tons and tons of purchases. I would have said something different 12 months ago, but there's some really cool things that you can do with the ads. You can even use them to increase your Instagram following, which is a great idea if you are consistently posting and engaging on Instagram. So you could use ads to enhance it. You can also use them. We can track people that has ever seen you before, but there's this cool campaign that costs about $10 a day that we can upload your customers, and we would exclude your customers from this campaign. But anybody else that's ever heard of you, we would send them one of your Instagram posts every single day to make sure that there's this group, these girls, these two women that own an ad agency. They call this the everywhere AF strategy, because these people are going to see you everywhere until they die, the ad girls say, unless they start working with you. But it's smart because they keeps you top of mind, And yeah, and then there's also things we can do with ads that do go to your customers, that maybe remind them how great your work is. And so we want to keep you top of mind, so they send you referrals, right? So yeah, so I guess the answer to your question is, when you're ready to go to paid ads, just list out your objectives, what they are for the ad campaign, and then look at your budget, and then that's how you decide where to go.
Yeah. So what I kind of heard you say there too is, like, there's steps, right? When you're going to start a paid ads or a social media initiative, there's a creation process. There's a cultivation process, which is, how do we get new customers? How do we get people to pay attention to us? There's a maintenance piece, because
Yeah.
once you give birth to this baby, you got to take care of it. You got to stay on top of it. And then the last thing is the follow through. So you've asked for my attention. I've given you my attention. Now what? So
Yeah.
making sure that you follow through with that too. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I just want to point that out, because it's a commitment, going from creation to cultivation to maintenance to follow through. It could be a journey, and it could be an ongoing task that most people probably don't have the time to commit to. So where that commitment comes into place is that what you do with all that has to align with the expectations, which is what you mentioned. And whether you're chasing brand awareness, sales, just like platform and audience growth, whatever that is, making sure that you understand, not only what your expectations are, but what your break evens are and where you're happy, because you could pull the numbers and you could pull all the analytics, but if you're running a brand campaign and looking at your sales, you're not going to be very happy. So
Right.
you have to
Yeah,
align your efforts with your expectations to make sure
exactly.
that this thing's working for you. But I will also say, and I'd love your opinion on this. I think drawing a direct line to cash is hard sometimes, and there's a lot of variables that have to go into that, from pieces and elements of your website to your product mix to there's a lot of things that make it difficult to draw a direct line to cash when it comes to running ads.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean there's no value there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It is because you have to just figure out, because a lot of times it's your time too as a business owner that you can't calculate, you can't put a number on for the return on ad spend. Like if you're consistently showing up on social media every day, that is so amazing if that's how you decide to grow your, grow your community. But I'm not going to see that dollar amount when I calculate your return on ad spend. But I will tell you, if you're doing that, and I'm not saying everybody has to, like we said, but if you decide that's how you want to invest your time and dollars, then you for sure would get a better ROI or return on ad spend. But we wouldn't see that time in the calculation.
Right. For me, it's about educating people on the mindset of, because I'll tell you that, like, I have a lot of clients that spend money on billboards. They spend money on traditional
I
advertising,
like that. Yeah.
but they don't try to quantify the number on a billboard. We've always done billboards, so we just spend the money on billboards. They don't break it down or criticize billboards in the way that they criticize social media. That's where, like, I have conversations with my clients all the time, on like the topic of impressions. If you take a billboard and you're estimating that a thousand cars go by that billboard every day, everybody's got two sets of eyes, right? They got two eyeballs. So that's, you know, 2000 or whatever impressions a day.
Mm.
It's the same on social media. So,
Yep.
like, when you're looking at impressions and you're looking at what your audience kind of reaches, that's what you want to pay attention to. It doesn't guarantee you a customer. It doesn't guarantee you a sale. But if the metric that you care about is just eyeballs and awareness,
Right.
social media is as powerful, if not more powerful, than any billboard you've ever paid for.
For
But
sure.
but we have to look at it like, apples to apples, where a lot of times we don't question the traditional. We just kind of beat up on the social media, and it's like, no, they're one and the same. And I'm not knocking billboards, and I'm not,
Right.
taking the side of social media. I'm just saying, from a mindset perspective, as marketers and as customers, you have to look at it for what it is and appreciate the fact that I'm hitting way more people on this platform than I would if I just did nothing.
Right. For sure. Agreed. And I have a story that I'm glad to share because I when I was talking about ads a minute ago, I do still see the value of lead campaigns for to like give away a freebie or a free piece of value in exchange for someone's email address and then nurturing that sale. And there's even value too in trying to sell something on with ads, but the leads, we're still getting pretty decent prices. But I have a client, he is a weight loss coach. He has and he has like 5 or 6 coaches under them. They have a very successful business. He has a very popular podcast and like maybe 40,000 followers on Instagram. And so, I would say he's modestly investing in paid ads. He spends about $1,500 a month on he has a freebie, which I think yeah, your freebie, if you do this, can be what someone would pay about $5 for. He's giving away this amazing book. I couldn't talk, he just an ebook that's like 80 pages long, that it's very full of information. But anyway, the health and fitness industry is pretty saturated, so the ads are even a little more expensive. But we're running an ad campaign that's getting him about an email address for $6. So I'm really bad. I love numbers, but I'm bad at math on the spot. But I don't know, maybe it's 300, whatever, $1,500 divided by 6, maybe 300
Hmm.
over a month. And he said, "Gosh, Meredith, that seems like a little expensive. Like, what if people can just, drop my email list?" Well, yeah, remember I love numbers. So I said, let me, do you mind if I get in the backside of your email, ESP, your email service provider? You guys, he has about 5,000 followers. So, I mean, 300 a month on 5,000, that's a pretty big increase, really. Cause I mean, I have a couple of clients, with a lot more followers than that. Ooh, can you hear me, Mike?
I can, yep.
Okay, your camera, I don't see you anymore, but okay, as long as you can hear me. And okay, yes, so I don't think that that's bad, 300 a month over 5,000. But then his unsubscribe rate had not changed in the 3 months that we were adding. So like these people we were adding were not unsubscribing at any faster rate than his old subscribers. And it's pretty little. And then his open rate is 42%. He sends an email every week and 42% of the people open it. And his email followers are super valuable, right? These people are reading his emails. So I think $6 a pop is amazing, but, and, and he has $1 million business. That's what every year. So like, I don't know. I think for $1,500 a month, like you're saying, it, to advertise in like a magazine or host an in-person event, you spend a lot more, right? But
So,
people really do nitpick these social results.
yeah, and it's just to kind of help them understand because if in that example, if he's gaining a client at $6 per and his kind of his growth rate is, what you say it is, then he's getting 42% open rate.
Yeah.
I mean, you can dig into that further, but that on the surface equation is fantastic.
Yeah.
Good
And
luck,
then there
good
might be
luck
other.
finding that elsewhere.
Yeah. And just to be, it's not a client, he's gaining an email subscriber. There was a few numbers I didn't have, but still, like what it looked like, he directs the email subscriber to fill out a form. And then, but I think that's a good price. But if it is, but 2 years ago, he could have probably gotten that email subscriber for $2, and that's sometimes hard to swallow, but it's
Yeah.
just how it is, right?
So how are you taking your past experiences, what you're currently doing and your knowledge of, kind of digital marketing? How are you taking this and creating a value proposition for your customers? What is that thing that you offer them that makes them go, okay, Meredith has it figured out. I want to work with her.
Well, I think it's about the strategy. So, and the fact that people that have tried to run the ads themselves see quickly that, first of all, Facebook Business Manager, even though it's easier than Pinterest, it's still fairly complicated. And if you guys haven't looked before, you run Instagram and Facebook ads through Facebook Business Manager, and it's learnable. There's YouTube videos out there that can teach you, but it's kind of a beast to
It's clunky.
even, yeah. But even before we go to Business Manager, I think what's really valuable about my services is that I do have a numbers brain. So, which is a little different than some of the creatives that work in social media. And so I can sit down and like I ask all about your numbers. I want to know, and I help you find them if you don't know, like what's the lifetime value of your customer? That's really helpful to know, especially for like even that health coach, for example, and I also worked with like a chef that delivers home meals. Well, we would run an ad where her average order from a customer was $80 a week. Someone pay her $80 and she'd deliver home meals. But her lifetime value of her customer was $570 because the average person stayed with her 7 to 8 weeks. And so really, if we acquired a customer, even if we spent $80, like she made zero on that first week's return, which she was my first client. So it's not totally fresh on my mind, but I don't think we spent that much. She got an 8-to-1 return on her ads. That's what I'm able to tell her. Like, and so I think that it's helped. That's one thing that's helpful when we work together. I can help people see the numbers so they do understand why they should spend, 1,500 instead of, and then that there's the numbers and also the targeting. So because I love story so much, we do dig into the story of your business. I really like to hone in on who is your ideal client. Marketers throw that around a lot, but really like which client brings you the most money, who do you make the most sales with? Let's think about her or him. How old is she? Where does she live? What does she like? And we really dig into the targeting on Facebook and Instagram, which is what makes that platform special. And it is what can make a difference in your results there, because if you don't use the detailed targeting, you're missing out on just honing in on the right client, meaning not just demographics, but does she like to shop at Neiman Marcus or does she like to shop at Target? Because we can actually target those two different women, and there's all kinds of different targeting options available. So that part's really cool. They just changed it. They just took away religion, politics, like this month. Yeah,
Yeah.
this month, which made it interesting because one of my clients is in Utah and we were targeting members of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints churchgoers, and we can't do that anymore. So we have to find something else to target. But anyway, I think that really is a reason to work with a Facebook ad strategist like me. And I think I'm great because I have the numbers background too.
I think I was just going to say, one of the things I think you kind of dusted over there, which I think carries a lot of value because it inherently can be used in other aspects of your business, is you're doing a pretty robust discovery process that help them kind of figure out where to look, what to look at, what matters, what doesn't. That business calibration process, and when you get that all packaged up and completed for them, if that's not rippling into other pieces of their business, then they're not really paying attention. But that's a valuable piece to that process.
Yeah, we start with I call it the detailed client questionnaire. As soon as they sign their contract, I custom make it for them and then send it to them and ask them to really take time to complete it. And yeah, that tool, I should remind them, now use this tool to,
They should, because that's a huge, it's hard to do. It's hard to, as an entrepreneur or business owner, it's hard to sit down and calibrate and evaluate all that stuff year after year with best intentions. You're probably at minimum even skipping a few years and doing it, but to sit down and go through that process with you, that's a good piece of homework that you can apply to other aspects of your business.
It's interesting too what comments come out of it, because one of my clients they have a psychiatry practice here in Miami, and they were doing we decided to run some awareness ads on a special neurofeedback service they were offering, where you hook up all these monitors to a brain and like expert reads your neurofeedback. And one of my questions to them was, who is your biggest competitors? And she said, I've never thought about that. So that was just easy enough to let's see how they're marketing, these services. And that was so interesting for her. So she took the time this was an electronic question. She said, Meredith, that was so interesting for me to figure out who it was we were competing against, which is,
yeah.
So she did use that information. It was super helpful to her just to see how they talked about it.
Yeah, it's great insight. And, whether they follow or really pay attention to their competition or not, to just know who it is and some kind of an organizational kind of constructed plan or strategy, it's going to ripple into other things. So it's good that you're doing that, but I would just throw it out there that, hey, if you're working with Meredith or if you want to, that's a huge plus to this process. So tell us a little bit about where they can follow you and find information about what you do.
Yeah, so everything's on my website that I built in Kajabi. I love it. It's meredithkallaher.com. And that's Kallaher with a K. When I got married 20 years ago, I learned quickly. Everyone writes C first.
Yeah.
Kallaher. And I'm also on Instagram. I actually just started, I'm still dabbling. It's a creator account, but I am not using it necessarily to find new clients. I more talk about, which I tell people, business owners, is important on social, to share what you do for business, but add in personal, because it is a social platform. So pick an aspect of your life you're comfortable with sharing. I talk about living in Miami and what it's like to be a mom of 3 teenagers and a little bit about business, but I love to connect because I used other avenues to book clients, but Anyway, yeah, so I'm there. And I have an email newsletter that I send once a week that talks, it's called, I share a blog that I write weekly. It's called Building Her Business. And it was very easy for me to write. I just started at the beginning of what I did when I went solo. And I have about 30 blog entries on my website, and I share them weekly. And you can get to me through Instagram at Meredith Kallaher or on my website.
Okay. I will share a couple of those links in the show notes as well so people can easily find you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Meredith. I appreciate it.
Bye.
If you'd like to learn more about CyberDogs, share your thoughts, or even ask a specific question about this episode and/or the brand retro mindset, contact me directly at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.